Okay, recording. Good. So, George, I met you when you came to film Habib when I was filming Habib for The Coach. And then you put me on Russian television, which was funny. Is my wife's like, okay, I've heard enough of that. Because I used to tell her I'll be on Russian TV. And then you came to interview Habib and you interviewed me too. So I'm interviewing you back. And, people that watch MMA, were you surprised when you get that assignment to come out and get Habib, or do they make you cover
Uh,
everything big?
for me, it was quite challenging because before we start, I knew nothing about that kind of sport. I knew nothing about the fights in general because I'm covering the news. I'm a news reporter, and I'm not specific. Sport is not my specification, so I had to read a lot before came to California, and it was not so comfortable because sometimes when you are that's your first time in the story, you have too much questions to make it in a good way. So it was really great to see you there, and you helped me and my cameraman Boris, to enter inside of the process. You showed us the training camp, you showed us the guys, you introduced us to people. Thank you once again. It was really cool, really great experience.
It's funny because I used to work in TV and now I'm Mr. YouTube. So I started in TV when I was a kid. I worked at an army base, and in high school, they said, do you want to work and learn how to bake bread, or do you want to work in the television station? And I was like, I don't want to bake bread. So I learned editing and filming and switchboards and running a newsroom. But usually the news would happen when I was out of school and I wasn't in there. So I learned how it worked. I learned the editing, I learned the filming. And when I picked it up years later, almost 20 years later, everything changed. The whole TV station fit in my laptop. When I worked there, the all the technology was massive. I mean, like computers when I was a kid, they were like 10 feet tall.
A lot of people.
Right. So you got into journalism. How did that happen? Was that straight out of school? Was that something you always wanted to do, or?
Yeah, as far as I remember, I wanted to be a football player, a soccer player. I was a fan of soccer from my childhood, but once I decided to be a news reporter, and it was the very certain day. I remember it. It was 9/11. When I saw what happened in States, everybody saw it and everybody remember it, and I was really impressed how journalists covered the story, how they worked, and it was really impressive. And it was, I don't have any words to describe how it was, the whole situation, the tragedy, that the very specific moment in the world's history, and how people on stage just walked there. And I decided I want to do something the same. So that was the moment.
That's pretty interesting. Now, you get into it, and one day they're like, go film this fighter, and you're probably going, why? And then you find out he has probably the #1 Instagram following. He's such a big icon of the sport, and all over Russia, people are so supportive of him. You're like, wait a second, it's not Kim Kardashian, it's Habib. That's who's important here in Russia, right? Did you realize that the magnitude of that before you came? I mean, when you did your research?
When you read about him, it's one story, but when you see him, totally different, because you expect something. Well, you can expect everything, but not what is in reality, because he's a very untypical sportsman. I found him very smart, and later when I knew about the MMA much more, I noticed that his tactics, his fight is like a chess. You know what I mean. That he walks from his head, And the second thing that impressed me, that he was very, very respectful to everybody. It's very untypical for sportsmen, and especially from people of Russian sport. Because when somebody in Russia is successful, I mean, successful hockey players or successful football, soccer players. Well, you know the stuff that in Europe we say football meaning soccer.
I know
So,
what you mean.
yeah. By the way, it's much better than the thing you call football. Uh, so he was really very respectful, and he was very calm, and his sense of humor, it's really great. There were a lot of jokes in the training camp, and it was not a training a star and others. Everybody were on the same level. I mean, psychologically, it was like a team of good friends. The atmosphere was really great, and we were part of that atmosphere, and I really enjoyed it.
That's a beautiful description. I mean, you really picked up on what was happening. He's one of the most humble athletes and the most successful athletes. And I believe a lot of that has to do with his culture and religion, that to brag about oneself is taboo. It's not good to do.
Sure, sure.
So it's like, wait a second, maybe this would be a religious man if he wasn't into sports, because he sticks to it. He doesn't deviate. And he never comes in and it's respects his elders, and he doesn't try to talk down to the other teammates like, you're no good, you're nobody. He doesn't do that. It's amazing, because you do see a lot of athletes, different sports or movie stars, they start believing the Twitter following or whatever they have going, and they go, that's who I am, I'm 120 million followers, that's who I know. you know and they might be arrogant to you. I mean, I'm sure you've had that encounter with different athletes or celebrities. Did that happen? I'm not to name
Well,
them, but I mean, just saying, like, have you had that experience?
well, I have a lot of experience with celebrities, but uh, when we finished the interview with Habib, he had to make some different stuff, and he was something around. He spent something around 30 or 40 minutes more in the gym, and we stood near the exit when he went out, and he went to his car. But once he stopped, he looked back, he came back to me and asked me, well, you are still here. Do you need something more from me? So can you realize he came back just understanding that we came from New York City to California just for one that interview, and he wanted to make it as good as he can. So it was very untypical.
That's the thing. I mean, a lot of media tries to press on him, and he's like, if you want to talk level-headed with me, yes. If you want to twist my words, he doesn't do anything scandalous. You won't find him coming out of nightclubs with alcohol or, women and stuff like that. He sticks to his
Yeah,
family.
I think it is important because two things. Because he's from Dagestan, it's a very specific, very picturesque place on the south of Russia. And the second thing, that his head coach is his father, and he has very special. I don't know. It is you can understand that it is very challenging that when your father is your coach. So I think it has sense.
You have to think that, you know, his other coach, Javier, that's why he comes to California, helped him develop while he was in the
Yeah.
States. His father gave him the foundation and everything. And when they're cornering together, Javier will say, it's father's plan that we're doing. He's not like, hey, I need to do my thing. He respects, because he came over to his gym already incredible. So he just helped him sharpen a few things. And they work really well together. The coach, Javier, and the father, Habib's father, they share the responsibility with Habib. and they don't push or overrun each other. So there's a lot of balance there. There's no egos going back and forth ever. The humility, I think that's the power there, you know?
You know, his father told us that the main problem of Khabib is that he always wants to attack. He always tries to go forward, 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 and sometimes it is too dangerous. And as a coach, his father tries to describe the tactic not only from the side of attack, which maybe is not so interesting for Khabib as a fighter, but it is also an important part of the fight.
To be more strategic, to use what we call
Yeah.
in fighting a fight IQ, you know? I got to get lighting
More
like
balanced.
yours. Yeah, I have to get lighting like yours. Yours is so much better for some reason, you know? I have a big computer and this light, it's just not doing it. I'm still in the dark. I'm in the green room over here. But
Really?
I don't know. I'm just messing with you. So it's funny. People, I always try to be nice to the other camera guys or people that are coming through filming because you'll run into them again. And some people probably film and I need to have a better show than you, and it's YouTube and they're chasing, and you know it's different. Like I guess in journalism you go for ratings. In your case, it's about delivering the story the best way possible. You're not really worried about anyone. You're on one of the biggest channels in Russia. How long did it take for you to get to the position that you're at? Did you have to do a lot of lower level journalism to get the responsibility you have now?
You know, well, I understand your question, but I think the main difference between YouTube and journalism nowadays is not the time, because if you're sitting at your studio, of course you can make your material much quicker than me as a reporter. If I'm going on the place and I'm driving somewhere or I'm getting a plane or something like that. Well, but for us as journalists, the most important is to tell the story in its best way, you know. The main thing is not to be quicker, not to be faster, not to be, you know, not to get an exclusive, because nowadays there are no such thing as exclusive, you know, because everybody has everything. Everybody knows everything. If we don't speak, you know, about high politic things, kind of White House and all that. For us as a reporters, the main thing is to make the story good. So to take all parts of the story and to make it in one straight, interesting line. So that's the most important thing. And if you work on YouTube, the most important thing for you is, as I think, to be quick, bright, and very loud.
That's part of it. I've been pretty calm. I haven't tried to be sensational.
Too calm.
Too calm. They're like, this guy
Yeah.
is putting me to sleep with his sleepy voice. No, but you know,
No,
I
no,
think
but you can try to whispering. You know, it's also good.
well, I do agree with you. It is speed. It is turnaround time. It is snap, snap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what we do. And I like YouTube. I mean, but I look at it like I saw a big truck, you know, with the satellite link up and all that stuff, TV truck. And I'm like, why? Get a portable hotspot router, camera, boom, go. The technology is shrinking, you know. I have friends in radio. They laid off a bunch of radio guys after this thing hit, after the coronavirus hit. Like, no one's listening to you going to work today. You're fired. That's crazy, huh? At least you have a good job and you're over here. So I think some of the journalist jobs are based on location. You're in a central location globally to hit airports everywhere pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And that's like not everybody can get the story because they're not working for a serious news company. A vlogger doesn't have the funds and the mobility to go cover that story in Tehran or, you know, up in Moscow or St. Petersburg or anywhere. They can't just mobilize like that. They're like, oh, my YouTube video will probably make $800. That's going to cost $5,000. I can't do that. So they're not in the big leagues. They're not in the big leagues. So what are you working on now?
But sometimes, you know, I can say not sometimes, but mostly we can use the video from YouTube. So we take it and use it. Of course, we put the titles, and sometimes we pay for it, as we should do. But I think it's part of the process, the whole process.
Yeah, it is. So you're in New York, you're in Manhattan, coronavirus shut down. Cuomo was telling everybody we got to do
Yeah.
these things. It seems to be the smartest thing to do. It's such a dense population.
Yeah, I think so. But I spent the whole day today on streets filming the situation in the city, at Manhattan in general. And I was really impressed that I saw a lot of people there. They said, "Well, okay, we have the last chance to go out before the shutdown." So it looked like everybody went out just to enjoy the weather, to enjoy the weekend, as nothing happened. And that was not so good, I think.
No, but they have to maintain social distance of 6 feet in Euro language, a couple meters, 2 meters at least
Yeah,
is the transmission. I did a podcast with the doctor today. He's like, it's not speed, but if you hang around somebody for like a minute or so, the transmission is gradual. It's not like, oh, 6 feet, run. Like, oh my gosh. So it happens though. That's kind of how the transmission happens.
yeah.
I'm an
Today,
ice. Go ahead.
okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, today I had a situation with one man near the, well, where it was. It was, near the Broadway, I think. It was pretty crowded because I told you that there were people on streets, and I was too close to one man. I think it was kind of 1 meter between us, and he said, "Sir, you have to go back." And that was so unexpected for me. I said, "Okay, sorry, I did nothing." Well, generally, I even looked on the other side, But he said, "So please, go a little back."
And he was being cautious, but it seems offensive when you're not in that mind. And then, people think, oh, it's a conspiracy. But
By the
then,
way, I wanted to ask you back. What about tests in your region, in your state?
testing,
Yeah.
I think they're supposed to fly some tests out here. But when I talked to the doctor, they were running out of alcohol wipes, purification wipes. And the reason was I called my other friend who could get them. I go, maybe I can get them for your hospital. Because if I can help, just because I know somebody, I will. And I call my friend. I go, what's up? He goes, oh. And he says, the trucks are backed up. We have plenty of products, toilet paper, steak, food, lots of product, but we don't have enough truckers right now. So the logistics problem with the hospitals and my friend apparently is the trucking companies need to open the doors or offer some incentive, get some masks on the truckers, protect them. And, this way we can kill it faster. Because if the doctors aren't getting enough sanitization and so forth, enough masks and being sanitized, they're really risking their lives. They're the first
Yeah,
ones to go down.
absolutely.
And in Italy, the doctors are dying too, So I don't know. What are the cases? What are the statistics in New York?
Well, the most impressive statistic is that, well, in general, it was known that coronavirus is something that is very dangerous for the old man. But more than 50% of people in New York City hospitals, as I understand, are people younger than 50 years. So
This is not something you want to put a gas mask on and go and say, I'm going to go film this. You don't want to get near that. You don't want to go to a hospital if you have to go to a hospital right now.
Today we filmed the testing center, and I was I thought that it will be crowded, and it was kind of mobile center when you're coming by car, and everything is in car, so
Yeah.
you even don't need to go out from your car. But there was no line and no traffic at all, and it was totally free. And I really well, it looked really good, and I think
Did you get tested?
uh, me personally,
Yeah.
yeah, I did, because I filmed in New Rochelle. New Rochelle, it is a small community, 30 minutes far away from New York City, and we spoke to a lot of people there. And New Rochelle is the first city in the state, the main city in the state of New York, where coronavirus came from. They have a small synagogue in the center of the city that was, the main building of the quarantine zone. And so when I came there, an officer asked me, "Did you have a contact with somebody who has a coronavirus?" And I said, "Well, I'm not sure, but I've spent 2 days in New Rochelle." And the officer said me, "Well, okay, your answer is yes. Go forward." So I went forward, and they made me a test.
Well, that's good. So you found out, hey, I'm okay.
Well, let's see. They say it takes 2 or 3 days for the result.
Oh, I thought you like bing, green light.
No, today President Trump said that they had kind of new test, 45 minutes. I think you heard about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
They're trying to get it over with quickly. I'm actually going to go to the countryside, and my wife and I rented an expensive getaway just because probably not going to go on vacation for a while. Why not get your vacation early? You know what I mean? So off to the countryside we go, up in the Napa Valley.
where?
Napa Valley? Napa, where they make the wine?
I understand.
Wine country, yeah.
I understand.
And there's mountains and vineyards and woods, redwoods, and no people.
Wow, that's cool. It sounds like heaven,
It is. It is. You'd like it. So what is your
I remember that last year you've been in Spain, on your vacation.
Yeah,
You've been in Spain.
I love Spain, but the Spanish people thought that the flu was like only happening at work. So they go, okay, everybody stay home. They go, oh, party? So they went and hung out and it spread. And I'm like, damn it. I wanted to go visit Spain, but it's spreading there bad like Italy kind of right now.
Yeah, no, I think the situation in Italy and Spain is so bad, mostly because people there are too open-minded, too friendly. They like to party. They don't like rules. It's south. It's not so easy to make a control of that population like they do it in China.
Yeah, I mean they have more control if you're a communist country, sure. Press the button.
Not only
Everybody.
that's not only about communists. It's kind of mentality, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, not even putting but communists. You do everything for the country, so the country has more say in what you do.
Yeah.
Where here, everybody's more entitled to their own beliefs and what they believe. But it's kind of like people that are anti-vaccine. It's like, what if that would have helped you survive now? It's like there's a lot of people that are allowed to say whatever they want, and I'm not putting anybody out or shaming anybody, but there's people that are a little bit too free with the wrong decisions, and they'll find out that's not the way you're going to be. You're going to be serious about this coronavirus. I think it will wipe some people out a lot. It already has. It's just that if people saw the dead people laying in the street, they would wake up faster. You would not need a National Guard. They would be like, oh, there's monsters outside.
Yeah, and it's not the best way to wake up.
Well, what is shopping like in New York City right now?
What is what? Sorry.
Shopping, going to the stores.
Everything's closed. You can go to buy some food, but there are lines. People are waiting in lines because they allowed to enter, not so much people inside because of social distance. But I think people in New York City mostly buy food in advance. a lot of food.
Well, I kind of want to dispel the myth that a lot of people are adapting this scarcity mentality. Like, there's nothing left. They tricked us. There will be never groceries again.
Somebody will buy all toilet paper.
Yeah, they have, and now Costco won't let them return it. And being a toilet paper dealer on the street, meet me, come down this alley. I got some toilet paper for you, Charmin. Don't
By
tell
the way,
anybody.
do you know why toilet paper? Why
Hmm?
they buy toilet paper?
Because there's an old saying, monkey see, monkey do. People, and that's just how one person sees another person. Like, I give you a great example. So I was in St. Mark's Square in Venice, and I just looked up, and then I watched all the people around me, and then I just sat there for a while, and then everybody was standing next to me looking up, and I was looking at nothing. And then I walked away and just saw this crowd of people looking up, at some tower, looking for whatever they thought it was, and I was gone. I probably left about 15 people staring up there. So when the toilet paper and the scarcity mentality came in, people jumped for the toilet paper. My friend was in a store, and I went shopping an hour and a half before Trump gave his first speech about the coronavirus. And I had a fine time. I got out of there, lots of groceries, lots of water, and some of the toilet paper was starting to go missing, so I got a lot of napkins instead. They hadn't really gone aggressively, but probably an hour later, they would have, So my friend's like, "Hey man," all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my gosh!" And I go, "What happened?" And he was in a store, and it was like a stampede, and people were grabbing 8 things of meat and 20 chickens, and oh my gosh, and they were just power shopping. But years ago I worked in banking, and we know the statistic that most people don't have $400 to $1,000 in reserves. So toilet paper's the new money? I don't know.
New oil.
The new oil. I have a toilet paper factory. I have 6 Lamborghinis.
By the way, do you know that in the late Soviet Union, there was no toilet paper in stores at all? So if the one wanted to buy toilet paper, he could not do it. And Soviet people used newspapers. So it's a good solution.
Yeah, they're seeing all the Americans over here. They're newly here from Russia, and they're like, "Oh, the newspaper stand. Nobody's going over there."
Well, it makes sense. You may read during the process. So not so bad.
I don't like this story. Anyways.
Yeah, let's try another.
Well, I mean, my wife being Russian, she told me when she was a little girl, she's seen 2-mile-long lines for really abrasive toilet paper, like sandpaper.
By the way, in Moscow or in St. Petersburg, in two main Russian cities nowadays, you can't see any lines at all. But when I came to United States, I saw so much lines. People here like to stand in the lines. It was really one of the most strange impressions for me from the States, Even if you come to Costco, you see a lot of lines. Wow.
And nightclubs have learned that. They call it holding line. So you make it look like it's really exciting inside of there. So you hold the line so people think it's got more value. Oh, I'll pay $20 to go into this nightclub. I'll pay $50 to go into here. There's 200 people trying to get into there. That's the 200 people that, well, there's room for 2,000. We just haven't let these,
Yeah.
I used to see that all the time. Well, it's been a great little interview. I appreciate your time. What are you going to do with your time now that you've got the stay-at-home thing?
I'm making a report right now about the situation in New York City with the coronavirus. So right now I will edit a report, and I think it takes 2 or 3 hours, something like that.
Any advice on what you've learned and what you've taken in? What would you tell people about the coronavirus?
Well, I think it is really serious thing. You don't have to panic, but it is really serious. Well, take it seriously.
Follow the rules, right?
Absolutely.
They're a little more casual about it in Russia right now, but I expect that to accelerate in the other direction.
Well, I think we have something around up to 300 cases of coronavirus in Russia, but well, we can't compare it with states because first of all, Russia is a little bit behind. You know, we will have, unfortunately, I think we'll have such kind of thing as you have here in United States in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, and the second thing why we can't compare the amounts because you know because of different testing systems. In here in the United States, you have another testing system, and I think it is better. Well, I think I don't know how much cases in reality I hear, and I don't know how much cases in reality are in Russia, but I think we have much more in the United States and in Russia both.
Well, one last question. What do you believe that China is suddenly cured, or is that suspicious media? Because you're a reporter.
Well, you're asking about the conspiracy theory?
I guess so. I don't know if it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you my opinion. I'm not an expert. I'm in my house in California with no helicopter over the scene of the crime or anything, with no detectives or Secret Service people calling me. But it's suspicious that they're suddenly over it and Italy's still going on. And that's not even conspiracy. That's just math. Like, why? Oh, no, we did the right thing. You didn't. Well, if this thing is what it is, it doesn't discriminate about the right thing. Oh, no, you did it. You know, it's kind of like when you crunch data, it's not always, you don't, like when you work on a data project, it doesn't always skew to 100%. This is how you make it perfect. You might optimize something by 8%, by 7%, usually not by a dead center bullseye 100. So I don't know. I mean, are you going to go to China and cover that too, or no?
Well, I have a reporter in China, but as for me, the most important and the most interesting thing is to you know, to win in that war against coronavirus, and after we can do everything else, you know, to understand whose fault it was, what was done wrong, and all that.
It's
Right
not
now,
that,
the most important
right.
thing right now is, you know, to challenge that stuff, you know, to just to win in that war.
Well, we have a lot of propaganda on every side. Every country
Of
has
course.
their own flavor. Let's be honest. We report on things. We know that everybody has their own agenda.
I just
And,
wanted to,
you know,
not even, you know, not even propaganda, but every country has its own myth, you know, historical myth.
I like that. That's better said. I wasn't trying to entrap you with the wrong question. I was just like, does that not look suspicious? Because I just thought about it. It's not like I plotted on this. I go, how can they be over it like that? And it's just waking up in other places. It just seems like something that's endless. And more than getting the more, if you could say, hey, you'll get the best journalist job and I'll get more million views on YouTube, get rid of the coronavirus. I don't give a shit about that. You know, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's the bottom line, you know? And like you said, it's get rid of the sickness. This kind of limits your mobility to do other stories too, doesn't it?
Absolutely, because well, there is only one story right now, and we can't film something else because well, nobody wants to speak to other people. You know, everybody sits at home, and when you call somebody and say, well, let's film an interview about, you know, for example, about relations between Russia and the United States, the most common answer is, well, let's do it, but after coronavirus, you know.
Oh,
Well,
I'm not trying to find out who did it. Now, it wasn't even about who started it. It wasn't about America, China, Russia, Japan, whoever
well,
started it.
as for me, the most important, well, maybe not most important, but most interesting thing is that how different countries react on that problem. And even now we can see that there is no such thing as united Europe. you know, that European Union is a kind of, as for me, is kind of failed state, because each country operates by its own government, and we can't see any, you know, coordinated stuff in European Union.
There was no union. You paid the union dues, but you didn't get the union lawyer, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for example, the most dramatic situation in Italy is in Lombardy, Milano, you know it.
Yeah.
And it is on the north. It is on the north of Italy. France is very close. When it started on the north of Italy, why France did not help Italians? They really did not. Why? If it is one country, European Union, I mean country.
Yeah, that's a problem right there, you know. And there's a lot of strange twists to the story. China, like, we're going to help you now, but we didn't cause it, they caused it. It's like so many finger pointings. That's not what the problem is. Get rid of the problem, and we'll talk about who did what later. And
yeah,
it's still going to be inconclusive. Doesn't matter. It's like a court where everybody gets accused and nobody gets convicted.
And we are only at the beginning of the process. We have to understand that this is only a beginning.
Yeah,
as I think.
I mean, this could go on a lot longer than people anticipate.
Yeah,
that's why they could say, hey, in 2 weeks you can go out again. They're gonna be like, nah, we changed our mind.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a scientist, but mathematically, what it's done and the amount of time, how long has it been killing Italy? For 2 months now, a month and a half or something?
Yeah, I think a little bit more than 1 month.
A little bit more than 1 month?
Yeah.
And China had it for how long? How long was their
From December. From December.
That's a
the
long...
first case is the beginning of December.
Wow. So we are in March. 4 months is about the cycle of this, maybe, optimistically speaking, if we all come out the other side of what they did in China. And then South Korea seems to have gotten a better handle on it too. Have you seen what they've done? They must have mobilized everybody quicker.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
right?
But you can't compare the countries from the East with the Western countries. Totally different.
Yeah, it's a different method. So when people want to compare, this is the first time the world is kind of froze in a way. I feel like every day passes differently from home, like time goes faster, like I'm in a time machine. I know that sounds weird, but that's what it feels like doing this from home. You know, at least you went out today. Like I told you, I'm going to get myself a nice country villa for a couple of weeks. And if it continues, I'll get it for a couple more weeks until I spend.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really great.
Until I spend all my savings. It doesn't matter.
Unfortunately, I don't have such kind of option, you know. I wish to join you, but I can't.
Well, I mean, where is there to go? There's really nowhere to run in this world. It's,
yeah.
If anybody has a place to get away to be isolated, if there's a forest and some, you know, their summer house, maybe that's a smart
kind of military shelter, maybe.
Yeah, but some military people have encountered the virus. And I'm like, this is not good, because I was going to go to the base. I have an ID card. You know what? Not so much anymore. And they have to keep their safety distance too. The military does. The American military. Because they've had a couple of sailors that caught it on ships, which is the worst place to catch it.
Absolutely.
So easy to commute. You know, you have everybody trapped in a can.
No, I think the worst is submarine.
Yeah, yeah. It's inevitable. You're going to hide by the nuclear reactor till everybody walks out of the submarine, and hopefully it burns some of it off you. I don't know, you know, but geez. Well, it's been great talking to you. I think people will like this.
Okay. Pleasure for me. Thank you.
Pleasure for me too. I just stopped recording.